Now comes the part where we throw our heads back and laugh. Ready?
Ready!
Let's get dangerous.
And here we are once again. It's a Thursday, so we're here. It's another Comic Book Spectrum Thursday. How is everyone?
We're fine.
Peachy.
Keen.
But it's just, I don't know. I just feel kind of out of sorts. I've been up and down both I shouldn't say physically, but mostly medically with the change in weather and sinuses and stuff. So I've been kind of up and down that way.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
But I'm here. I just got to weather the storm here.
Oh, here, I'll
With
show
all
you
of
something
the
that'll cheer you up.
so-called rain, and then it's like we're on the verge of probably the weather's gonna take a turn.
Ooh. Look at that.
He got. I was once a man. A man.
No, this was just a retro carded classic Cobra Commander
Yeah, but he still was once a man.
with a chrome,
A man!
chrome visor.
Yeah.
Ooh.
I haven't opened it yet.
Well, you know, if you open it, you'll drop the value.
I open everything.
Okay, so it's not just me.
I will
And the
make
case
this
is
one
cracked
suggestion
anyway.
here. I will make this one suggestion. When you do open it, keep him away from Destro because of the simple fact that you don't want him compromising his order like he did with the Weather Dominator.
Destro's still in the tub of loose figures over here.
I kept my that Mego Rocketeer that it had come out several years ago. So, but when I got it, it was packaged up, and I resisted the urge for about 6 months to actually open it. And when I did, guess what I found?
Go ahead.
They had opened it before and very careful tried to carefully seal it back, but it had been opened before and had a tear mark on it and everything. And I'm like, I waited 6 months to find this out. I generally don't leave anything in a box. I always take it out. But that one, I just because it was older and my daughter had chased it down for me.
Yeah, I got a few things still in boxes, but not much.
I entered the world of old lady crafters and finally got myself some more of those carpal tunnel gloves to make it easier for doing artwork and stuff like that. Because I had I noticed my hand the last drawing section I did, it was 3 hours straight, and then I had trouble, flexing my fingers and stuff. It was kind of painful. So it's like, well, I've had a pair of these before and they've been okay. So I got myself another. I'm always confused about when they say they're copper infused. It's like, what? There's a vat of copper, you dip them in, or it's copper steam. Are you infusing these things with copper? But there's no trace of copper in the actual gloves. I figure you big brain men can explain that to me.
I always thought it was copper intertwined with the threading.
Threads, yeah, that's what I thought too.
That's what I mean by infused. I mean, when you infuse something, you actually mix it into the actual material.
And copper is
gotta
one of
be
those things that you can do very thin threads of it, right? I mean,
yeah, so I'd say it's got to be
extremely
very
thin.
thin,
Mhm.
you know, because they're black gloves, but they have these weird little sort of rubbery things. Next time I'm on the show, I'll have them so you can see.
Yeah, there won't be enough copper in there to go take to recycle, but there's
No
a bit in
way.
there.
Oh, so when I wear them out, I can't just go to my local
Yeah.
recycling. Hey, can I get a few pennies for this?
You need to make them look like falconer gloves so your bird matches the glove. That would be.
That'd be a good idea. Yeah.
Well, they're black, so you know.
Well, just put a cuff on it, and there you go. Just attach a cuff. Hmm.
Maybe I'll get you a little hood
Yeah, there you go.
and a crown and a belt, a little suit, yeah, a little jacket. Would you like a little jacket? Yeah.
Give him an Angry Bird hood with the eyes crossed. That would be cool.
Or maybe I'll dress you up like a cat.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
I'm just up here still thinking about the top hat and monocle and making it like almost like a drinking crow type clone, except more realistic.
Ooh, maybe Tennessee
Hmm.
tuxedo.
Ah,
Tennessee tuxedo will never fail.
Yep.
Mhm.
You know, so
You want
he
to know
could be
why? Because he always goes to Phineas J. Whoopi, the man with all the answers.
Mr. Whoopi. You know?
Phineas J. Whoopi,
inventor of the
man with
cushion.
all the answers.
Yeah.
Classic
Um,
Don Adams voice.
Mhm.
Carl's had sinus problems as well
Hmm.
for the last week or so.
There's
What's
a lot
the
of
temp?
people.
What's the temp been like where you guys are at?
70s.
It's finally getting down to like mid 60s, low 70s here.
In the morning, this morning it was 44 degrees here.
Ooh.
Wow.
Yeah, it was cool.
Yeah,
And we were just celebrating the fact that my apartment no longer feels like any minute you could lift your feet off the floor and float. You know, it gets
What did
that
you start to
humid.
say, Joe?
No, I was about to say it's like all my science problem started. It was the first night that they went all the way back down into the 30s.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that first night it went back down to the 30s and then popped right back up to like 70s, 80s. It's like, yeah, that's going to set a lot of stuff off, and I'm just like, okay, time to take vitamin BEN.
Mother Nature's getting a freak on. You know, she's just like, okay, I'm having menopause. You know, one day she's got them chills, the next it's hot flashes. We need to get her a date. You know, I'm thinking Thor might be a good idea. We can find Thor to be, you know, almighty Thor, will you date Mother Nature?
Why
People
are you
ask
now
for
making me
weird-
think about the one issue of Thor where he actually met Gaia and Gaia was nothing like what he thought it was going to be?
I didn't see that. I have not seen that issue. Sorry. Sorry. So, Eric, what's today's drawing?
We're drawing indie comic Psycho Slumber.
Never heard of it.
You look unenthused.
I just don't know anything about it, so that's it's hard to get excited for something you don't know. So
Psycho
I agree.
Slumber sounds like a failed goth band or something. You know, some emo band that didn't quite make it.
could be, yeah. It's by the Diaz brothers, and they've done quite a bit of stuff lately. So past few years, so yeah, it might be halfway decent. I mean,
Yeah,
they've got a lot of books out.
Yeah, that's a major problem, Carl, because I know for a fact if I'm not masking up, it's curtains. I know I spent this past no, not even this past Saturday. It was this Tuesday. I cut the lawn and whatnot because I couldn't do it over the weekend because it rained and all this other stuff was going around. Like, I have to constantly remind myself, I gotta mask up because you never know.
Did you hear the hurricane alarm? The tornado alarms going off on Tuesday, Joe? Did they go off? Oh, they went off over here. Yeah, they went off over here.
You have to be mindful. You're closer to the lake than I am.
That's true.
Have you guys had any kind of outages on your services like AT&T or Charter Cable or any of that?
I've had a few blinks, but Comcast can be buggy at the best of times. So I can't say that it was because of, but I know this weekend I did have quite a few times where I had to click out of a channel and come back into it because it would be playing, and then it would get it would like it wouldn't sync up the sound in the video. So it's like, okay, go out, shut it off, wait a few seconds, come back.
One day we people that had Verizon were out here, and the next day the people that had Charter Cable, Spectrum Cable, were out for a while, and then the next day, today AT&T. So it's just, I'm like, is this like hackers just spinning a big roulette wheel to see who they take out today or what? And they lasted for several hours. So
I won't say the phenomenon that happened. I think it either happened yesterday or midway during today. They said that there was the biggest solar flare that happened on the sun that was witnessed from I think it was somewhere in the middle of Africa, and it took out a lot of things in that general region. Okay. But they're making it sound like it doesn't affect anywhere else in the world. I was like,
only Africa felt it, right? Okay, because Africa's the only continent on the planet, I guess.
No, it was just like, there was no really major outages. It's like, yeah, we still have access to our cell phones and stuff here in the States, but we don't know the true effect of what was going on at that time.
Right.
It's like Africa might be the epicenter, but we don't know how wide it spread.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm missing a whole bunch here. It's like
I was sketching up.
It's like moving around trees, just kicked up dirt in there. Yep. Yum. I could smell that garlic bread when I walk down the stairs. Okay. She's ready to eat. That was good. Our Verizon stayed on, but I guess a lot of folks were out. I know that it was something on Channel 9 News talking about all the different cell phone outages between AT&T and Verizon. I was like, to me, that was just like Tuesday, another day. That's not even something real big.
Right.
Thank you. I work hard on that.
My sweetie fixed me seasoned cod with a little bit of butter and a little bit of garlic and a little bit of not paprika, but the other pepper.
Peppercorns?
Pepper?
Pepper, but then there was something parsley.
Parsley. Okay.
And just done to a turn, and oh my gosh, it was good. So good. I'm like, more? Let's fix more of this, please.
I kept it simple today. I just did tomato soup with some bacon bits on top, and then I made grilled cheese sandwiches for my goddaughter and I with smoked Gouda. Because we had to go out earlier and do all the laundry and bring it back. So it's like, we're going to watch Vox Machina and have tomato soup and smoked Gouda, grilled cheese. It was good. Smoked Gouda and a grilled cheeses. She's nodding her head vigorously. We got it last month for cheeseburgers. And it was really smoked Gouda on a cheeseburger is really good. When I lived on the north side, the Tonys over there used to carry this blue cheese, but it was square and they would deli slice it, and that on burgers was phenomenal. But I can't find it over here. and it's not something I'm willing to, spend the better part of the day going to Irving Park just to get a few slices of this cheese. Good thing Leia's not here, or she'd be complaining.
Yeah, I don't know where she's at.
I saw she was online, but I don't know. She might be looking at somebody's. I don't know if anybody has a sale on.
Not that I'm aware of. But if it was a sale, she would be bothering me. She would be like, "Hey, such and such got this. Such and such got that." Such.
Well, for those who have not seen it, I would suggest, if you can, the season 3. Well, I would say if you haven't seen any of it, watch seasons 1 and 2 first. And now, Amazon, I don't know what Critical Role did, but Amazon has released seasons 1 and 2 of Legend of Vox Machina onto YouTube through their Prime Video channel, and you can watch it for free. And I do know they at least have episode 1 of season 3 on there, so you don't need to pay for Prime now to see Legend of Vox Machina. You can actually see it for free via YouTube. And I think it's because they, Critical Role, Amazon, YouTube all made some sort of deal, though you may get a ton and a half of commercials.
We'll get back to your programming in 90 minutes.
What? Oh my goodness. Am I the only one? You're watching something. You're in the middle of something. It's getting good to you. And this commercial pops up and you think, okay, this will just be 90 seconds. I'll sit through the first 30, 45 of it. So, make sure folks get paid. And then you realize it's 3 minutes. And then you realize, oh my goodness, this thing's about 20, 45 minutes long.
I don't know. As a reader, and a writer, I either have a piece of paper and I write down some notes on stories that I'm doing, or I got a book right there and I'll read. I don't notice it too much because I get distracted. Sometimes it's like I get a good part of the book. We'll be into the show. I'm like, oh gosh, I got to back up now.
I usually notice about 10 minutes into those 20-minute long commercials, especially on YouTube, because I'm sitting here drawing and mostly listening. Commercial. Yeah. Oh, wait, and I hit skip a minute. Next thing I know, I'm like, that's been going on for a while. I looked up 10 minutes of 20 minutes. I'm like, what?
But it's like I'm watching, and it's and the thing about it is I'm watching a video that's maybe 15 minutes long.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then halfway through, they pop in some crap that's 20, and I'm like, hello? I do not want to see somebody's 6-minute music video if I have this whole playlist I'm streaming while I work.
Yeah.
I'm not interested.
Especially if it's polka.
I don't mind polka.
Okay.
The thing is, and I keep saying this, and I'll probably keep saying it till I die. Being born in the 60s, you got exposed, especially via TV and stuff, to a lot of different music. And I can't remember, there was this company, help me out, Clyde. There was this company that used to release weird albums of stuff. And they released a collection of polka music.
All I know is I used to spin record. I actually worked as a disc jockey when you spun records. And one of the things I had to host as the, lower end of it's like, oh, he's a part-timer. He just started. He's got no say. You get to come in Saturday mornings. Oh, okay, I can do that. No, you get to come in Saturday mornings and you can host the polka party with your old friend Al Grease.
Who's going to polka on a Saturday morning? Even Polish folks don't do polka on a Saturday morning.
And so he had a live, hour or 2 hour show, and he'd come in with all of his albums, and we'd set it up in the studio. And so I came to appreciate. I really don't mind polka. I make fun of it just because it's out of vogue. But they had young people that were doing polka at Germantown and places like that around here.
Yeah,
they would come in and do live. We'd set it up, and they'd do live in the studio. So it was a lot of fun. And it's just that time. I don't know that any places have very much spinning of records anymore. So I feel like I kind of got in at the last gasp of a very cool era, getting to do it.
Oh yeah.
Thing is there is there are a few polka songs that are like very, well, at least for our generation, like Roll Out the Barrel. Who hasn't heard the song Roll Out the Barrel? Roll Out the Barrel, we'll have a barrel of fun. That's a polka tune.
Oh yeah.
You know, I don't want her, you can have her, she's too fat for me.
Yeah.
That's an actual polka song. That is an actual polka song.
What did you start to say, Eric?
The duck song.
Yes.
Oh,
Man, every wedding still.
It's a polka.
Yeah. That's right. That's right.
You know, there's a lot of old polka tunes that are part of the national zeitgeist, at least for our generation. And there's probably stuff that this generation, I mean, there's probably a lot of stuff this generation knows, but don't realize where they came from.
Maybe. Oh, speaking of generations, so this weekend began the new Saturday Night Live season 50.
Wow.
Yeah. That. Yeah.
Damn. I was 13 when they started. Holy crap.
1975, the year I was born.
Damn.
Saturday Night Live began.
I can't remember the last time I watched one.
Live from New York, it's Saturday night. Oh my goodness.
I
Chevy Chase
don't
falling
always-
down the stairs.
Depending on who the host is, I don't always watch the whole thing, but it's just kind of a habit I got back into after I retired to watch Weekend Update.
Oh.
So at least watch that news part. That's always funny.
I have not I mean, I've back in the beginning when you had like when it was Jane Curtin and Dan Aykroyd doing the weekend report, and then Rosanna Dana would do would do some commentary. Flea erections was my favorite of hers. You know, flea erections in China. You know, because that was I think she must have went off on a 10-minute rant before Jane finally goes, that's not, you know, and Jane would crazy, she'd go, never mind. And I don't think I've watched one, because I remember watching all of the original stuff, but then as they started to change the lineup, I got less. And then as they started to change the lineup, they also started to change the guests. I mean, at one point, people thought Steve Martin was a regular member of the cast because he'd been on the show so often in the beginning.
Him and Lauren Michaels are best friends. He was Steve Martin's best man at his wedding.
Oh, I didn't know that. Cool. I remember when King Tut came out and Martin came on it. And he had the whole outfit on.
When did Garrett Morris was supposed to be one of the originals, I believe. I wasn't sure if he didn't come into 76 or not.
No, he was one of the original not ready for primetime players. He'd been there at the beginning. Yep. He was, in fact, there were times when it was the joke that he was the lone black guy in the group because they had no black women. And the first live action person to play Ant-Man. Yes. Yep. The best cameo in I forget which Ant-Man movie it was, but this cameo in that, I was like, he's a cab driver. And I think Paul Rudd falls on the cab and the cab driver is going, what? So cute. The best send-up of a Garrett Morris routine I ever saw, I think it was on ABC's Friday. I don't think it was Garrett Morris himself, somebody doing Quaalude Man. And it was obvious a send-up of Garrett Morris. That's on one Saturday night. I remember him from. I do remember him from that. And she's got her. Yeah. Like they're standing and one's just like, is this a good idea? Oh, relax, baby. I can fly. Do you remember
Walter Matthau, I believe, was the host, and he said he came out and he started to do. I think it was after the monologue, but he came out to do an introduction, and you think it's going to be like the band or the guest singer, and he starts talking about Garrett Morris and his work as an opera singer. Have you ever seen that? Check out that clip. He says, so tonight he's going to do this, and he does this beautiful piece of opera, and then Mathau, when they come back, Mathau goes, "Okay, now you can go ahead with the regular crap you show on this program."
Oh my goodness, I miss those. I don't know. There are days when I really miss some of the older guys, like Mathau, especially I miss a lot of the old shows. The Odd Couple was a huge favorite of mine. That show just had me in stitches, because I used to think, oh, this is how single men in New York live. You get together once a week for poker with your friends. It's like it was a great show without being toxically masculine. You had all these different faces of masculinity, but not particularly toxic. And I loved it. I kind of miss those shows, and but I also miss. I guess I miss with the passing of Maggie Smith and others this past week. We lost James Hopkins, we lost Maggie Smith. We're losing a lot of those singular talents. We have so many actors who nowadays you can just sort of unplug one actor and plug another actor into his place and not miss a beat. They're just kind of plug and play actors. And we don't have singular personalities. I think of guys like Yul Brynner. I don't think of many actors who are up there with, say, a Yul Brynner or even a Walter Matthau. There are a lot of great old talents that we're not really replacing. There are some pretty boys out there, but that's about what they are. They're kind of pretty boys. And not all of them are beginning not all of them have come to realize they're not going to be pretty forever.
Right. If you want to see somebody, an actress that really has impressed me the last few weeks, along with not just her, but the whole cast is excellent. I talked last week about watching The Penguin. I am so in for this show. And to me, one of the standout talents, I saw where Brian Rodman posted that she needs to get an Emmy or there's no justice in the world, at least a nomination for this season, is Christy Milioti. And she is
from How I Met Your Mother.
Kristen Milioti. Is she from that?
She ended up being the mother.
Oh,
she showed up in the very last season.
Okay.
Oh, okay. We never saw who. I think my youngest, almost to the last season, he got to the point where he was getting really tired of the show because he was a big.
The last season is very hard to get through. I mean, it's got its good points and bad points. Jason Segel wasn't on set most of the time. He was doing his scenes from he was in a car trying to get to the wedding from Minneapolis, and then it ended really, really bad.
Well, she plays Sophia Falcone.
She's the one that had been in Arkham.
Yeah,
that tortures him. Yeah, she's good.
A scary lady.
Then you wouldn't recognize her on How I Met Your Mother, then.
Scary does not. I mean, she's like a horror film.
Yeah,
she could do it. She could maybe make James McAvee afraid.
Yeah, I think so. And it's one thing to write a good gritty crime drama where okay, the heroes or anti-hero or your protagonist isn't necessarily a good guy, but he's better than those guys. And those guys are normally over the top, really scum of the earth, terrible, bad, awful. But it's I think a different level, a different expertise of writing the same dynamic, but with somebody that is as approachable and not over the top evil as she is. She's just unhinged at times and intense, and she wants revenge for what has happened to her family. And she's no one's fool. She's quite bright. And you've got the main character, the Penguin, which, again, she's not the only one, because Colin Farrell, I can't find him. When I'm watching the scenes, I can't find him.
He's not there.
They made him look very well.
Oh,
and his, it's just, yes, it's the body transformation, but it's also just his face and his features and his expressions.
And the voice.
And the voice. It is so good. But he is a manipulator, and he is a working class stiff that is very good at finding opportunities and playing two sides against the middle and coming out on top. And their battle of wills between each other, as he thinks about the time he thinks he's got something over on her, she looks at him and tells him exactly what he thinks he's doing to her, and it's not going to work, and blah, blah, blah. It's just that kind of antagonism between them is chef's kiss.
It's about 5 seconds short of sexual, but she stays so calm.
Yes.
You can see it in her eyes that it's just batshit crazy to the max, but she's so calm about it. It's like, okay, Dr. Lecter would be scared of you, or he'd at least like, okay, I'm not going to even invite you for dinner. I'll give you a drink. And while you're sipping that sucker, I'm going to run out the back door. But, there is just, it's like, oh, you would not want to be in an enclosed space where the only way out is the door behind her.
Well, and she comes into it with the whole, just like in the comic books, 7 hanged people that, because she was the hangman killer. So that she's got it in her, but she did her time in Arkham, and now she's out, and she's all well and everything now.
but it's not. She's not.
That's the reason why I want to watch it, because
it's not that over the top comic booky. Yeah, I've been in Arkham. I'm a better. It's not that. It is such. She just. You can see that she's really having a good time doing it, but she plays it in such a way that is so he can't fluster her. He does not fluster.
He's starting to chip away. He's starting to get a foothold as of the last episode. But yeah,
but to me, that
dynamic is good.
Scarier, because someone like that, the minute you start making them unhinged, is the minute they get really dangerous.
What'd you start to say, Joe?
Sorry.
It's like you guys are making me want to watch it now, because again, there's a unique relationship between her and Carmine. And we know Carmine has that calm demeanor. When he truly comes unhinged, it's like anything around him is getting destroyed, including himself. I wonder if she is that type, because I think it's like she was described as her father's daughter. So if she was really a Falcone, she might have that demeanor, and that demeanor means a lot.
When she's introduced in the first episode, the Penguin's talking to one of the crime bosses guys, and she says something from behind the back of the room, and he turns. He's like, "Oh, Sophia, I didn't know you were out." And she goes, "Yeah, out of Arkham. I'm reformed." And you're like,
I love the way he's like,
"Oh, you're not right. You're so not right."
But the way he doesn't want to say Arkham.
And
You
she
know,
and she does.
she
Yes, out of
finishes
Arkham.
it. He's like,
Yes.
I didn't know you. And nobody, you don't know she's there until she reveals herself. It's like she
Mhm.
steps out of the shadows in a way that Dracula would be like, whoa.
Yeah.
You know?
That's just one little that one I have watched. That one impressed me as an introduction to her. But that's just one little scene out of many, many powerful, good scenes between several different characters in that show. So, normally, and that's a real switch for me because if it's a show that is dealing with a superhero's villain, if the superhero isn't in it some, I don't really care normally. But this is on the level of, a Sopranos, that kind of gritty crime drama that, if Batman doesn't show up or, no superheroes show up in it, okay, I don't care.
I
It's
think if Batman
so
showed
good.
up in this, that would ruin the show.
Yeah.
I seriously
Well,
think if Batman, Nightwing, or any of those guys were to show up in this, that would ruin the show because it feels
Maybe not.
so. You're sitting there going, okay, these are real criminals. This is it. It's like a show that's grounded in reality. Batman, there's always that sort of fantasy element to Batman, where if you put him in this, it would screw all that reality.
I
It
don't
to
know.
me, it
Depends on how
wouldn't
they
be
did it.
grounded.
The showrunners have impressed me.
I gotta say this here. Whoever is doing this series did their homework because I don't consider
Yes.
Penguin a super villain. He's not truly a super villain. He is a individual that has control of a city without having control of the city.
Mhm.
He is the world's greatest fence, and
Mhm.
he knows about anything and everything that comes through that city. You don't get to that level of power by having might. You have that level of power by being able to manipulate those who have power.
And
And
let them
sometimes
have a target on their
even including
backs.
heroes.
Yes.
Yeah, and letting the other guys have targets on their backs,
Mhm.
and because
While
he's
you
a
get to slip
survivor.
away.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting. And their dynamic is just, it's very electric. It's not like we're going to rip each other's clothes off electric. It's both of them are looking at the other one going, no, I'm a lot smarter than you think I am. And the minute you drop your guard, heaven help you. It's that kind of thing. It's very Moriarty and Holmes. When I think of it, it's
that's
very
true.
Moriarty Holmes, that sort of dynamic of two brains just going at each other. Who can outthink the other one the fastest?
Well, here's the problem with that logic here. There's other families that's involved. If I understand the concept of the show correctly, there's other families involved. It's not just Sophia versus Penguin.
No.
It's more like Sophia trying to figure out, okay, who are you setting up to attempt to try to take power away from me?
But it always
Because technically I have a feeling that she doesn't consider Penguin a threat, but Penguin has enough information to make other people strong enough to challenge.
watch that first episode and watch her question him.
Mhm.
We'll kind of reconsider whether or not she considers him a threat.
But that's part of the fun is the back and forth,
Yeah.
of footing, trying to get your
Mhm.
footing on each character, and them trying to get their footing. And like you said, family. Yeah, there's different families involved, so it's definitely a multiple level chess game. It's not just straight across the board, and
Yeah,
you get that. You get that. Yeah.
it's very it's like 5-dimensional chess, but there is a chess game where it's a 4-sided board and you have four players all going, and it's kind of like that.
And it's got the Fizbin edition on the side. So
Oh, okay. So we have to worry about double quadludes.
but the chances of that are, I don't know, Mr. Spock, what would you say? I've never stopped to figure them out, Captain. Well, they're pretty high. Let's just say that. Okay, the odds are just astronomical.
All you need now are a couple of triples to lighten the mood.
Yep.
But like I said, it's definitely a good a good watch. If you want something, it to just sort of grab your head and hold you from beginning to end. It's a definite good watch.
Everybody's been talking really highly of it. Now the other Batman property, not so much.
Right. Nobody's really talking too much about the Joker, other than the fact that it's a musical. And I was like, let them talk about that.
They're talking about how bad it is. Is what I'm saying.
There you go.
Did you know that Joker was a musical? No, I did not. It's bad. Oh, okay.
I channels I've watched that don't give anything bad reviews. I'm like, oh my god. How bad is it?
I don't even want to know.
Bad.
I don't even want to know.
Godzilla took one look at this as he was coming into New York and said, "Now y'all suffering enough," and turned around and went.
Godzilla looked at it. Godzilla got to the shores of New York and it's like, y'all got your old problems. I'm out. Y'all got your old problems.
I'm gonna go home and watch some anime. Peace.
He even did the Vegas dealer thing of, I'm out.
Yeah, Carl, it's the Joker 2. I forget what they're calling it.
Joker, something I do or something like that.
Yeah, I do Follies. It's got it's the one with
Lady Gaga.
Lady Gaga and Phoenix. Which Phoenix is it? No, which River? No,
Joaquin Phoenix.
Joaquin Phoenix.
I was say River's
Phoenix.
dead. Yes.
It's like which Phoenix was? Which I normally think he's a tremendous actor, but I don't know. I watched the other one, the first one. I was like, hey, it's okay.
I'm just thinking they're taking too much liberties here. But that's the one thing is like after watching Gotham and understanding how they did the whole thing with Jim Gordon, I would like something to explain all the different families there. And I think Penguin is going to do that. But I want to see people like Black Mask. I want to see Black Mask. I want to see Carmine come back. I want to, I want to see all the different families and why this power struggle is there. I want to see how did the Court of Owls actually form because of this.
Okay.
Because why would Carmine be afraid of the Court of Owls? He had that much power in Gotham that the first thing that he tried not to do is cross anybody that was in the court. I'm hoping that Penguin can talk about that. But yet, I'm not a Batman fan. Why? Because they got away from the person who would have known a little bit more about all this stuff, which would be Thomas Wayne. That's why I love Thomas Wayne so much, because, again, his background showed that he was not a good guy. He had dealings with a lot of stuff that he kept secret. Him and his wife. But it made him more like a spy than anything. He was more like, MI6 type spy.
Okay.
Than just, a rich guy who just happened to have all of these connected friends. And that's one of the reasons why, the whole thing with Pennyworth, I still got to go back and finish watching that. It kind of impressed me because Alfred's background to me is key to a lot of this, at least dealing with Bruce.
Yeah, I was about saying dealing with Bruce, but because it's like, okay, I always wondered because, the Alfred in the original show was just kind of comic relief type of character. But as you get into the movies, and Michael Caine's Alfred especially, there's always that hint. There is something about Alfred. There's a reason Alfred has left England to come work for the Waynes. And I keep thinking, it's got to be something, was he MI5, MI6? was it one of those, you got to get out of town by sundown brown? And we know this family in America that you can go work for. But you gotta kind of get out of town or you're gonna be dead. I always wonder, or if he just felt it was, I've made enough enemies over here where I need to disappear where they won't know me.
I like there's a I think he's on TikTok, but I've seen, I don't get on TikTok very much, but I have seen his stuff pop up. He does impressions of characters, side characters of Batman, and he does one of Alfred. And it's like, first of all, he's got this mask, and then he's like, I am the Firefly, and I have broken into Wayne Manor. I'm going to take all the money. Who are you? And the same guy dressed as Alfred going, Alfred Pennyworth. I'm the butler to the Wayne family. What do you got there? A shotgun. But this is Gotham, and Batman protects Gotham. Indeed. Well, he doesn't carry a gun. Do you see a cape? No. Do you see a cowl?
Who do you think protects
very
Batman?
Good. Boom! And then you hear like from the Batcave, Alfred, what was that? Nothing, Master Bruce. I'm just getting rid of some very bad rubbish. Again.
Yes, Batman protects Gotham. I protect Batman.
And he slips in, Alfred Pennyworth, former agent of MI6, and da-da-da-da-da, and, the guy doesn't get it, and you're like, oh, you're a dead man. You just don't know it yet.
We'll have somebody call your mama and let her know you won't be making it home tonight, okay?
That would be messed up. You guys gave me an idea. Alfred walks into the room and everything. He sees Firefly there. It's like, excuse me one moment. I must play this song for you before I bid you adieu. He goes over to the phonograph, and all of a sudden you hear the needle drop, and then nothing but Bohemian Rhapsody plays. and Firefly would be like, why are you playing that? And it gets to the point where there's talking about what it's like, let me go. That's the let me go. Let me go. No. Pow, 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 pow. And then you have Bruce going like, Alfred, is there anything wrong up there? No, sir. I just clean up some rubbish.
And I would have just written that horribly because I'd have been okay. First he shoots out the big toe on the left foot. Guys jumping up and down, screaming, Alfred, I'm watching wrestling, sir. Don't worry about it. Blows out the kneecap on the other leg. It's like, Alfred. They have these Saturday Night Live reruns are amazing. I'd have probably written it where Alfred was like a serial killer. But he only murders people when they come into the mansion. He doesn't go out. He's like a Dexter. He's like a Dexter.
Rough on Schwartz drivers, though.
But this is the weird thing. This is the weird thing. With all the training that Bruce had, Alfred was there first. Alfred was technically his first teacher.
Mm-hmm.
Alfred would have been like, okay, Master Bruce, it's like, why do you suspect something is happening? I don't know. You just been kind of too quiet. It's just like I hear a big boom, and then all of a sudden it's like, I got it, I got it, sir, and this, that, and the other. It's like, but yet I never see anything, I never see the final outcome. It's like, normally if it was a big boom, it's like, let's say if it was a vase or something, I never see a broken vase. I never see anything like that.
There's no water, no flower petals.
But there's always a big bag that's sitting over there by the garbage each and every time for the rubbish to come up. So what is actually being broken here? Don't worry about that, sir. It's just it's just a well kept secret.
You have no idea what's up in the attic.
There's a reason that I do all the gardening, Master Bruce.
And look, the roses are looking especially well today.
You need more powdered lime, Alfred? What are we planting out there? Oh, various things.
Hydrangeas.
Lime is a very, very good solvent.
Matter of fact, Master Bruce, should I call Miss Vale for your 6 o'clock dinner again? You know that you've been standing her up. Is that your way of getting off the topic, Alfred? Quite.
Did it work? then yes, it is.
Oh, look, Master Bruce. Birdies. Whack. Be quiet in that bag.
Actually, watching some of these, watching Batman the Caped Crusader and then watching the Penguin and stuff, I was doing a scene with two characters that are possibly going to become allies at the end of a short story I've been working on for Stormgate Press. And one of the best lines, the hero who's presented the other character with some damning information about an enemy to the public. And the one character is saying, well, this would be problematic. I mean, this is an anonymous source, but to present this in court, it'd be better to have somebody that we could get on the witness stand that would testify to how this evidence was obtained and blah, 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 blah. And he's just standing there listening. And when she's done, he says, I heard you have ambition. There's a rung. Climb. And vanishes. It's one of those, it's like, yeah, just kind of one of those film noir sort of exchanges. But yep, I killed the mood in the room, so now
I'm just looking at Eric. He's like so concentrated on it's like I really don't want to draw this character, but I'm looking at these.
I'm looking at reference. Yeah, it's maybe a cross between Pit and Savage Dragon, but he's purple.
Okay.
He's got a t-shirt. He's got blue jeans and a belt. Instead of a fin, he's got some kind of purple flame. And he's got the big teeth and no nose like Pit. So,
Is anybody gonna watch the Deadpool and Wolverine movie? When it because it's now available for rent. You can buy it or rent it.
Isn't rent 25 and buy 29 or something like that?
If you get it on Amazon, yes.
Like, man, I'm just gonna wait for it to hit Disney Plus. I do want to see it again. I loved it the first time around.
I finally saw a reaction video to it, so I got to see a truncated version. And the couple doing the reaction videos, their response was like mine. It was like every other scene was like, okay, it can't get more insane than this, and then it would get more insane. It was just one of those from beginning to end. You were just, did I just see what I just saw? And then something else would happen. Go, oh my goodness, what was, they should have, if they have to rename this movie for the rest of the world, it should just be what TAF, because it's just, you find yourself screaming that through most of every other scene, but I love Dogpool. Dogpool just stole my heart. I must say. And oh my goodness, I was the cameos, and they were asking how come nobody got wind of the cameos, and I figured it out. Ryan Reynolds. If Ryan Reynolds in another life, there's a Ryan Reynolds who's a criminal mastermind, because he was really smart from the beginning. He put all the attention on him and Hugh Jackman. And everybody was so focused on him and Hugh Jackman, they didn't see what he was doing just over there. He was like, Hugh Jackman, see? And me, it's me and Hugh Jackman, yay! It's me and Hugh Jackman. Hugh Jackman's butt. Hey!
Mhm.
And everybody was watching him and Hugh Jackman. So nobody was getting what was going on with all these. Oh my goodness, these cameos. I was so blown away. Chris Evans.
Mhm.
Holy crap.
Mhm.
It's so smart though. This
Mhm.
was like, okay, how many times did you have to watch those amazing young men in their flying machines? And it's a mad, 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 mad world. You know, with a little bit of the original Casino Royale with Peter Sellers and all those guys. How many times did you watch all those films and say, you know what, I can do that as a Marvel superhero movie and make it even crazier and more fun with blood and gore? It was just like I said, it was like that was so smart. He kept everybody so focused on that nobody caught wind, and they filmed the rest of the stuff in ways and places that anybody who might have seen something the way they were doing it, you would have never gotten it.
Mhm.
It's not until the individual parts don't make sense until you put them together so you see the whole.
Mhm.
And the whole was just like, okay, my brain is leaking out my left ear, but I don't care. I'm just gonna keep watching this till I have nothing left in my skull with this movie. I'm hoping around Christmas the rental price will go down so I can rent it and we can watch it that day.
Mhm.
You know, if I
Well, did
can't
it
get
hit
home.
streaming as of yet, where it's not for rent?
No, it's not going to hit streaming where you can get it for free, probably until after the holidays. I don't think you're going to get it for free
I don't
anywhere
know too
until.
many free streaming services. Such like to me, I'm still paying for Disney Plus and Netflix and all the other stuff.
But right now,
Maybe Disney Plus will put it out as a holiday, as a Christmas, like on Christmas Day.
yeah, maybe that. But right now,
I think
Amazon,
it's really going to matter how much it does
Fandango.
in DVDs or DVD sales and digital sales. But
Right.
yeah, if
Right.
it's doing good, it's going to be even further out.
Right.
Yeah. You know, because it used to be what? When we were children, yes, we're getting back in the Wayback Machine, y'all.
Mm.
Watch where you step, because
Oh, I got to go. It's almost 8:00.
no,
Yeah.
I have created a new rule. You cannot leave.
No,
Yeah.
I got to go. Get on there because we got
No.
people showing up already.
But I'm crying.
Well, have a good show and have a good week, Eric.
I will. You guys too.
All right.
Thank you.
Should be fun.
Birdie
All right,
says
talk to you
bye
all later.
bye.
All
All right.
Bye.
Wow,
It's
it's weird. It's like when he goes, it's like our cue to change gears, and I don't like changing gears because we're talking about some neat stuff right now.
but it's when we were young, something came out in the theater and you didn't see it on TV, depending on how big the movie was, at least a year to 2 years, you know, and then it made TV. And depending on who paid what money, it was either CBS after 10 o'clock or, you know, it was a ABC Sunday night movie. Because the ABC, a lot of people forget, and that's because most of those people are probably dead besides me. When Aliens hit the airwaves on television, ABC had the first extended cut. They had an extended cut specifically for ABC. So ABC, when they aired it, the first time they aired it with an extent, I think it was 10 minutes of commercial at the beginning, no commercial breaks, and it was an extended version specifically that James Cameron did for ABC.
Mhm. So I know Joe's not really entering into the Halloween season, and Joe is not the biggest horror fan out there. But Elaine, when you were growing up,
Yes.
did you watch the shock packages? You know what that is?
No.
Okay. Normally, when we were growing up, there would be a horror host and a local station would have a monster theater, and he would introduce the shows, or she would introduce the shows, and it came from a syndicated package called the Shock Package, and it was a lot of Universal movies that
Here in the
hadn't been
mid,
seen.
okay, here in the Midwest, that
Mhm.
was when I was a kid. It was Svengoolie,
Okay, yeah, yeah, there
The
you go.
original Svengoolie, which was Jerry G. Bishop.
Um, but that was like some of the first times that um, those shows had been seen outside the theaters. It showed them at the theaters. They come back every maybe a couple of years later if it was popular, but they were needing syndicated programming for television, and the Universal collection. They're like, hey, we got monster
Yes.
movies. We'll put that on. Um, right now, all through the month of October, there's a fellow on YouTube, um, and he's got a regular show, but I usually catch him on YouTube. Dr. Gangrene.
Ooh, I'll have to look him up.
And he is carrying on the traditions that he grew up. I think he's around Nashville, Tennessee, and in fact, he got a memorial made to the guy that was their horror host over the summer. They put up a memorial to um,
Cool.
Sir Cedric. I can't think of his last name, but um, he made a lot of a lot of monster kids happy back in the day. So he did that, but he does a daily examination of horror movies. He does a countdown. And this year, because he was doing stuff with a horror host over the summer, the dedication, he is doing each day he takes a film out of the Shock Package, and he analyzes it and talks about it. Um, so one day, and he draws it at random. So one day it could be, I think the first one was Dracula, big movie, okay. But
Okay.
then the second one was, oh gosh, the haunted
The House
something.
on Haunted Hill?
No, no, it was like the Haunted Trio or something like that. But it's one of those that didn't get a lot of airplay. Didn't have any major stars in it.
Okay.
It's a but he was describing it, and then she shows scenes and things, and I'm like, no, I got to find it because I don't think I've ever seen that one out of the Shock Package. But so he's just kind of hitting all these different
Ooh.
this variety of movies and explaining a little bit about them, and you know, but each of his little segments is about 15 minutes long. But he's a real historian when it comes to horror films, and every year he does a different kind of a countdown, and that's what he's doing this year. So I thought if you were a kid that liked the Shock Packages, you might find his stuff interesting, and our audience too.
Well,
So
in film school, we now have a name for that collection of that type when horror movies when Universal were doing the classic movies. They're now called the Scarlet Cinema.
Scarlet Cinema,
Yeah,
even though they were in black and white. What the hell?
yeah. Well, because but yeah, it was in the 90s. Those because I used to love it because occasionally we would have movies like that pop up in a film class when we were doing like film noir, and our teacher like, oh, tonight we're going to do something from the Scarlet Cinema. It's going to be Universals, and I'd be like, yeah. And they were like, yeah, great, you just made the horror chick happy. But I will have to look up Dr. Gangrene because I think just about, I mean, because that's the whole point of, that's part of the joke of Fright Night is,
Mhm.
Every region had their own sort of spooky person.
Mhm.
Vampira and Elvira were
Mhm.
the two that were nationally known.
Mhm.
But Svengoolie, Jerry G. Bishop's Svengoolie ended
Mhm.
up being he had enough influence. He had Bette Midler early in her career.
Mhm.
She got to come on the Svengoolie show, and she wrote a song specifically for that show that they played for the rest of his run as Svengoolie.
That's cool. Very cool.
She wrote a very special for it. Svengoolie is uptight. He's he's out of sight. Svengooly's really gonna hit tonight. He's creepy and he's something and he'd love to get you by the throat. And that's all she wrote. And she, of course, had her backup girls and they got up and did the song. It was so cool. And as a kid, I learned it and I went, Mom, I learned this new song. And she was like, child, I got grown up stuff to deal with. Go away. But I was like, no, Bette Midler, the boogie boy woman, she was on Svengooly. It's so cool, Mom. But I was just like, that next day, the kids who had seen it, we were all talking about, yeah, Bette Midler, that boogie woogie bugle boy woman, because we didn't know anything about the Andrews sisters then. Bette Midler single-handedly, when she redid that song, brought interest, and suddenly the Andrews sisters were in vogue again because Bette Midler did that. In fact, she did it. I saw her do that on, it was somebody's variety show. Thank you, Leah. I'll leave it to the rest of the boys for the rest of the evening.
So you're doing fine. It's just so funny that that's the first thing that she comes in saying into the chat. That was her first chat entry. No, hi, how are you doing? You're just like, hey.
I'll insult Elaine coming straight out the bat. But yeah, if I can find the song, I'll post the link in our chat. Do
you still watch the Rich Cause Svengooly, son of Svengooly?
Son of Svengooly. That's the thing.
Every once in a while, John will watch it. It depends on what he's watching.
Now they've got the other, like the assistant hosts too. So I haven't watched it with the new assistant hosts. Yeah.
He has this rubber chicken. He has this little rubber chicken, and the little rubber chicken has parts where he speaks, and John is was it Nerwin or what his name is? John loves
Nerwin.
Yes, he loves this little rubber chicken. But there is he's for a while there they lost the rights to do the Universal films, so they had to get other horror films. And John does not like a lot of the newer stuff, so he doesn't like any of the Chucky movies or that stuff. He likes the classic stuff. He especially likes the what is it, Abbott and Costello meets the monster movies. He loves those. There's a lot of people don't remember, but back in the day they also did a couple of Bowery Boys meets the monster movies. And he loves those. And when they have those, he'll watch. He loves the classic Dracula. He loves the classic Frankenstein, Bride of Frankenstein, Wolfman, and then, like I said, the Abbott and Costello, the Bowery Boys. He loves those. But a lot of the newer stuff is just too violent and too gory.
Right.
For him. So
that's interesting.
Joe, what did you start to say about Rich Cause? I think
I'm about to say it's just weird that he dropped the son of part.
Well, he said
because
Jerry
he was
Bishop.
Originally the son of Svengooly, not.
Well, there were two sons of Svengoolys.
Okay.
When Jerry G. Bishop stopped being Svengooly for a while, they were keeping the show, but they had to find a new Sven, and it was son of Svengooly because it was no longer Jerry G. Bishop. And then that show ended, and for the longest time there was no Svengooly. And then I guess after they saw Rick Cause as Bozo, somebody said, "Oh, he might be good." And then I guess
not Bozo.
He was Bozo. Yeah.
Maybe in a different city, but he was not a Chicago Bozo. No, he wasn't.
He was somebody on the Bozo show. Oh, maybe he was Cookie. Yeah, that's it. He replaced Cookie. He replaced somebody on the Bozo show. Hold on.
I can't think of Cookie's name, but Cookie was somebody else.
What I had read about
was Wizzo.
What I read about Cause was that when he came on as son of Svengooly, Bishop I think was on Jerry G. Bishop was on there maybe, or
Mhm.
something came up of him going of his wanting to continue on, and he goes, well, you go ahead and take over. You can go ahead and just be Svengoolie from now. So when that happened, when he kind of gave his permission, he became like the new Svengoolie. Is what
Right.
I've always read. I don't know for sure, but
Because I know as a kid back in the 80s, he was always known as Son of Svengoolie.
right,
It wasn't until like 2000 that he dropped the son of and you just the Svengoolie.
right.
And there was a hiatus from like what I want to say from like 89 to maybe like 2000 2001 where he just stopped. The show was just canceled
Yeah, because
and they brought him back.
it didn't come back on until shortly a couple of years after we came back. When we came back in 2012, and John discovered it sometime. I'm trying to remember, when did John discover Svengoolie? He didn't discover Svengoolie till about 2016 or so. So about the time we moved over here.
Because I grew up with Son of Svengoolie. I grew up with Son of Svengoolie on 32.
Yeah.
And then when Rich Koss brought it back, it was on 26. UHF channel.
It's now on MeTV instead of channel 30.
Now it's on MeTV. Yep.
Because it used to be 32 with Svengoolie, and then if you were lucky, you could catch Playboy at night on 26.
Mm-hmm.
You could also catch You Bet Your Life, old reruns of You Bet Your Life on, which is what is it? Groucho Marx's old show.
Yeah, that's You Bet Your Life. Yep.
Yeah. They used to have reruns of You Bet Your Life on 26 occasionally as well.
We started watching
either that or 32.
On our local cable system had MeTV and Svengoolie. My daughter and I started watching it back, like you said, around 2012 or so. And that was a weekly ritual. I'd go over to her house and we'd sit down and we'd watch horror movies on Svengoolie. But in their wisdom, the cable channel finally said, because every year it would come up for like a renewal of contract, and they'd be like, MeTV is awful expensive. We don't want to, they wanted them to come down on their price to show it, and they wanted to increase the price every year. So finally they dropped it.
Okay.
And so
I
have started watching Creature Features, which is on YouTube. And every week they have a very cool older movie, not normally the Universal stuff, although sometimes the lesser known, but a lot of 70s TV horror movies. I stumbled across them when I was looking for a copy of The Night Stalker, the movie, the TV movie that spawned the series and all.
With Darren McGavin, that was originally part of their first Night Stalker. Was a short that appeared on Rod Serling's Night Gallery.
No,
wasn't that on the? Didn't that start from Night Gallery? Okay, it's. I'm old. I could have sworn it started on Night Gallery.
No, I don't know. My biggest memory of that was USA Network.
Oh yeah.
No. It was on ABC before that.
It was ABC first.
There was Night Gallery, and then there was the movie, and then he got his own series after that. And then
there's no Night Gallery with Kolchak.
No, but I'm saying Kolchak, the Night Stalker, there was a movie, and then there was a movie, and then they got the series.
The Night Stalker, the Night Strangler, and then Kolchak, the Night Stalker. Yeah.
And then and then it went off the air, and then what? In the early 2000s or so, or 2010s, they tried to revamp it. It was it had none of the feel or the it didn't. I love the original Night Stalker. They had one where they shot parts of it in the old buildings from IIT, that red brick building that overlooks the Dan Ryan. They had a few scenes shot there and a couple of other buildings, and it was great to sit there and watch that and go, I know where that is.
Creature. I'm sorry, go ahead.
we would watch it, and then the next day at school, we'd go, "Oh man, did you see that section? That's that area of the train where they shot it on the Lake Street."
Yeah. And they would go to Chicago to film parts for background, on the elevated train, and the building there was the INS building was part of the
Mm-hmm.
Chicago landscape. So, but also on the Creature Features, it's every Saturday night, and there's some like TV horror movies I hadn't thought of or seen for a long time that they have shown. Gargoyles, they have had a trilogy of terror, the Killer Bees. Um,
Oh man.
yeah, and so they have all of them cataloged on YouTube, so you can search for your movie, go to Creature Features, search for the movie, and just find what you want. But I think they've got about 400 episodes that they have done over
Wow.
the last years. So um, it it is different than Svengoolie. It's not quite as slapstick and all, but I don't know. It has they live in the California. They live on the coast. They're not too far from where they filmed The Birds.
Oh,
Alfred
okay.
Hitchcock's The Birds. They live down the road from John Provost and his wife, and he comes on sometime. They talk about his work on Lassie and his career, and
Oh,
they've had people on there from Saturday morning shows, like they've had most of the Land of the Lost people, the original Land of the Lost folks on there as guests. So they always have,
oh, Chongo.
yeah, they have interesting guests.
Wait, they had Walter Kronig on there, the original Chekhov, who actually wrote Land of Lost.
No, well, they may have had. I don't know for sure. They may have had that, but I'm thinking like the actor and actress that
The
played the kids.
cast.
Yeah, the cast members.
Okay.
But they may have had Star Trek people on before. I'm not. They've had some people.
Cool.
They mentioned like out of the blue they'll mention. Remember when so and so was on our show? And I'm like, I gotta find that. When was that? And sometimes they'll mention like how long ago it was, and I can find it. But they've had a lot of the people that do convention circuits, going to the different conventions, nostalgia conventions. I think Butch Patrick has been on there from the
Oh,
Munsters
wow.
and stuff like that. But not
I could just
sometimes they
only
don't have guests. But I'm sorry.
I would say I could just only picture somebody like Wesley York being on that show.
I have a question because there used to be here in Chicago in the 60s and the 70s. They used to have a show called Creature Features.
Mhm.
That was the horror show. And the opening graphic was a line drawing of which one of the he was one of the Cheneys. He played one. I think it was Cheney Senior, not Cheney Junior. Played a vampire or something,
Mhm.
and it was a line. It was a black background with a white line drawing of him as this vampire creature. And I
Mhm.
cannot remember the name, but the host of that show had he had a poem that he said the opening of every show, and then he would you never saw his face.
Hmm.
It was just the voice. He would say this creepy poem, and
Mhm.
then at the end of the film, when they closed out, he would say pleasant dreams. So does the new Creature Features do that, or is it like
Well, no, this is actually we were talking about syndicated like shock package and stuff.
Mhm.
In the 60s there in California, um, one of the local stations had a Creature Features, and of course, they're very close to Hollywood, so they could get some major horror talent to come in and sit in. But it was more of you had like a guy it was a younger guy, but he had a pipe and glasses. He was a film student, and he would bring these guys in, and they'd do interviews and they'd show the film. But they had some stuff that was funny, but it wasn't as schlocky as a lot of them. There was none of this, like, from what I've seen of the clips, there was not like the tolling of bells and the that kind of stuff. And now the version that they have now, because it was like Rich Cause with Svengoolie. It came, and the one guy got tired of doing it, and so somebody else took over for a while, and then it went away. And then it came back in the 80s when horror movies were big again, and so now this is like its third or fourth incarnation. Um, and a guy named Jeff Bodine is in charge of it. And they have this. No, not.
You know what my mind went to,
Oh
right?
yeah, not
Jeff
the Beverly
Bodine.
Hillbillies. No. It's
I
actually spelled,
graduated for the 4th grade.
it's spelled differently, but he has been in a band. He's like a baroque guitarist in California, and see that they film it. The background is like, this isn't a studio. This is an old house that they're in, a really old, fancy house. And they talk about being in the Poulter Mansion. And I'm like, that's a real place. So, okay, so you got this guy that was like a background guitarist. And he bought this. When I looked it up, he bought this mansion. And I'm thinking, how does a backup guitarist that I've never heard of and who has had a rock career apparently, but not one that really is on the charts, how does he afford to buy this big multi-story mansion right on the coast of California? Well, apparently he got in on the ground floor of a little company called Google because of people that he knew. So he's got money apparently. So he took this place over, and he was a fan. I think he was a fan of the show, or knew people that were a fan of the show. So he's the host. He plays a character called Vincent Van Dahl, and so he's the host, and then you have a guy that takes care of the place called Mr. Livingston, who's very tall and gaunt. But even now they're not. And then you have I'm still locked on Sven. I keep thinking Gwen Gooley, but that's Sven Gooley. But she has a girl that she doesn't ever talk on camera, but she's got like these long dreads and a weird kind of ghastly makeup. She's the only one that's kind of made up. The rest of them are they're just, Van Dahl's a former rock star, so he's got kind of a rock leather outfit that would have looked about right in the 90s probably. But he's an older guy. And so but they have a really good chemistry. The butler is very droll in his delivery and stuff, but he's not made up. No, he's not. No, not like that. But he's tall like that. Anyway, it's just they do some little skits. It's funny. It's kind of understated. It's not over the top like a Svengoolie. Yeah, if you're looking for something fun to watch for Halloween season, that's free, of course. It's on YouTube. You can subscribe for free, and then every week it'll show you. Coming up this week, we're going to show this movie, and but it's a lot of fun, especially if you like that 70s TV horror that you don't see every place.
I was thinking this weekend of, I've heard some people, the new version of Salem's Lot is out.
Yeah.
And from what I've heard, it's not very good. The original with David Soul, I loved, other than the Stricker character, the vampire, because I had read the book, and in the book, he speaks for himself. He's he's a bald gentleman, but he speaks for himself. He's very intelligent, very well spoken. And in the movie, they just had some guy dressed up as a dime store Nosferatu.
Ralph Nadir.
Yeah. And the minute you see him, up till then, it was really atmospheric and creepy, and I was looking forward to seeing the vampire show up, and then he comes in the window, and I'm like, it took me out of it. It took me out of it, and it took a bit to get back in. It just really...
Reggie Nadir. He was. If you look at the old classic Star Trek series, the original series, on Journey to Babel, where you have all the diplomats from different planets, he played the Andorian, the primary Andorian ambassador.
The one that turned out that he was selling everybody out. No, that was his assistant. Yeah. But I found that out, but it was like, well, okay, you've done stuff I've liked, but you really were misused in this. It just, because he just stands there and goes,
Pretty
and
animalistic, yeah.
and it's
Yeah.
like, okay, that just took me out of it because I'd read the book.
Me too.
And when you realize this is a thinking being who
Mhm.
has planned this whole thing, because when you think of the strain, it's kind of that character that they build on in the strain, this
Mhm.
very smart vampire who has found a way to utilize human, human greed or whatever to his advantage,
Mhm.
and finds this small town in which to get, to get his claws, to sink his teeth in.
Right, right.
I know, but
Claws, teeth, something. Yeah, it's sinking. There's a sinking going on here.
something then sunk. But I was just so disappointed because it's like, and then, he's,
Mhm.
and it just sort of like, and I'm looking at the other character and I'm like, really? This is what we've all been afraid of? Really? It just sort of, all the other vampires, the seductiveness or the way they get in your head and stuff, they were making sense. The thing with the kid, the first kid, and all oh my goodness, I remember reading that and then seeing it, and it was like, that's how you get in somebody's head.
Mhm.
That's how you make them afraid.
Mhm.
And in the book it's like, did I close his eyes? Did I remember to close his eyes? And that he's doing the burial, but at this, and then all of a sudden he's realized he's digging him back up, and that question just keeps going in his head. Did I close his eyes? Did I close his eyes?
Mhm.
um it's, and great performances,
Mhm.
great performances, but that just sort of pulled me straight out of
Mhm.
everything that had come before and just sort of like cheapen it.
Mhm.
It's like all of a sudden you go through Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings and Sauron's a hand puppet.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Mhm.
like, Sauron just shows up as a little Sauron just shows up. Hey there, I'm, I'm trying to destroy everything you hold dear in life. It just sort of, I kind of expected somebody to turn around and go, this is what we've been afraid of this on time. Set this bitch on fire and let's get,
Mhm.
let's fix what's wrong with the town. It
Mhm.
just, it just sort of, it kind of ruined it. But overall, other than that, it was a decent, especially for the time and the fact that
Mhm.
ABC had put some time into getting good actors and stuff. Other than that, it wasn't the bad. But I've heard people say, "Oh, this was ridiculous. You really couldn't get into it." And it's like, "Oh, geez, that's sad."
Mhm.
You know.
So, are we going to do comic book reviews tonight? We got any or?
I'm leaving
Well, we
that to
got
you
30 minutes to
guys.
do so.
I'm leaving that to you guys. I've had a lot going on and I did not get a chance to read today.
Okay. I'm sorry, Joe. What did you say?
I said we got 30 minutes to do it in, so
Yeah.
it's up to you guys. I mean, I'm not very well prepared, but I do have something. But I want to save it until I'm very well prepared. So if you're ready to go, Clyde, you could go.
Take
Okay.
it away, Mr. Clyde.
All right. Let me get my books here. Oh. So this was a good week. Especially if you like, we're in that spooky season. So if you like that kind of stuff, you're in for treats. But one of them from last week that I didn't get until this week. Ultimate Spider-Man has been a fun read. Um, this one is we're up to number 9. And this is where the bosses of New York, the new Sinister Six, are starting to show their hand and come after our heroes, Spider-Man and his pal, Harry Osborn, otherwise known as the Green Goblin in this Ultimates world. So we get a look at some of their family life, um, and the difference between Harry and Parker's family life. We get some updates on the online newspaper that J. Jonah Jameson and Ben Parker are founding, but we also get to see the first of these lieutenants from the Kingpin's crime organization come after them. So, good read.
Yay.
Um, Justice Society of America number 12. This is the end of the Jeff Johns run. Um, and it's been delayed at times, and it's been kind of up and down. But this is a beautiful send off, and it's the 25th anniversary of Stargirl,
Oh.
and it's a celebration of all the different versions of the Justice Society. And if you think I'm exaggerating, let me show you some of the splash pages.
Ooh.
Yeah. And
A super chickie with shorts on.
there's
Wow.
several pages of classic lineups. But it has a little bit of a story that goes along with it, but it's mainly celebrating your 25th anniversary and then putting a bow on this series because they're getting ready to start a new one
Oh.
in a few months. So with a different creative team and everything. So if you like the Justice Society, I thought it was a great tribute issue and a very good way to end it. We had Image's Redcoat number 6, and this concludes, I think, the first story arc. It says that, like, next issue's epilogue or something like that, so maybe there'll be one more. I'm not sure, but this is the story of the immortal British soldier that it's all of it's a conspiracy of um, witchcraftian and the founding of America as done by men that intended to manipulate fate, magic, power, kind of like the secret Masonic orders were actually had witchcraft powers, and this is how he turns out to be immortal. But there's still a bunch of these other people, these secret brotherhoods that are, they didn't mean to make this guy immortal. It was an accident. Somebody else was supposed to get the immortality. He got it instead. So they make his life miserable. And we see a young Albert Einstein here, because this takes place back when Albert was a young man, and him teaming up to try to fight these guys. So it's it's one of the Ghost Machine books, connected to Geiger and Junkyard Joe and those kind of things. So these have all been good. It wrapped up the whole thing very nicely. It was one of those where you go, well, it can't get any worse than this for the hero. Oh, it just got worse. Yeah, how are they going to get out of this? Because before I didn't think they could get out of it. Now I'm pretty darn sure that, there's a coffin nail coming their way. And within the space of 2 pages, they managed to worm their way out of it.
And it made sense.
I love it when they can do that.
Okay, the question is, because it's called Redcoat. Redcoat was what the British were called.
That's because this guy was British. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
He was. That's what I mean. They didn't mean the Revolutionary War. The founding fathers didn't mean to make him immortal. They had that plan for somebody else in their entourage, but he kind of got in the way.
A little like Sleepy Hollow.
Kind of like Sleepy Hollow. So DC is doing this. This is a Black Label product. You can tell by the language and things when you get into it. The Plastic Man No More #2. This is the one where he's a member in good standing of the Justice League, and he's comedy relief for them, and they don't take him terribly seriously. And then he finds out that his cohesion is slipping, as you can tell by this image. He's losing his form, and they pretty much think it's a joke until and he's like, no, I really need help here. Oh yeah, ha, ha, ha. So he has to try to figure out a way to stop this himself, not because he's worried about dying. Of course, he doesn't want to do that, but mainly because his son has inherited his powers. He doesn't want this stuff to affect him eventually.
Cool.
So it's it's a good story. It is funny at times, but it's got a real dramatic undertone to it. It's for Black Label. It makes sense because it goes from slapstick to very serious at times. So it's been, if you like that kind of thing, if you don't mind Plastic Man being serious at times, it's very good. Now on to the stuff that's more like horror, Halloween and horror time. You got Zach Thompson, Cruel Universe. This is part of that new EC line of comics. And Cruel Universe is sort of like the House of Mystery or Creep Show, or with EC, that would be any of their original line of horror that got canceled in the 50s after the Senate got done with the Comics Code Authority was brought into play. So, and these have all been good. Looking again, this is taking that classic horror stuff and putting it with modern themes. Like in this one, we've got cars that drive themselves because of AI.
Mhm.
An Earth that basically drowns itself.
Well,
Yeah,
we got 2 moons now, so,
yeah,
what the hell?
yeah. There's another one about online presence and trying to stay safe on the internet called The Deleted Man. And Cullen Bunn actually puts in a pretty decent one for a short story right at the end too. Um, it's called Behave, and it's about AI behavioral drones that help society to interact more smoothly, keep everybody kinder and gentler to each other, or else.
Oh, no.
Yeah, yeah. There's a couple of good AI stories in here, but there's four stories, quite well done. I'm impressed with this new EC line, and this would be a great read for anybody's Halloween. And DC has given us perhaps a peek into one of the I think animated projects that James Gunn is doing with over his new DCU. We have the first issue of the new Creature Commandos from
Okay.
DC, and David Dasmashian um, um, is the writer for this. Now that's the guy that um, he wrote the horror host series. I can't think of her name now. It just went away. Count.
Vampirella?
No, no. No, this was
Elvira?
this is his own creation, and it's one that I followed early on, and it was really, really good. And it's still going on. It's comes out in arcs, but let's see here. I'll find it. But he's got he was a horror kid. We were talking about horror kids and what's the shock packages. David Dasmasian is one of those. Now he also was in Late Night with the Devil. He's one of those. He's one of the main. He may have actually either produced or directed it, but he is most well known in the Ant-Man movies. He was the Russian guy of his little criminal group that was talking about the witches, and he's oh, he was also the polka dot man in the Suicide Squad movie. So he's got a career going on as an actor, but he also loves comic books, and he started making this one. I think it was for Dark Horse, maybe. Yeah, it doesn't seem right. Count Crowley, Reluctant Midnight Monster Hunter. So it's a horror modern or a fairly modern horror host who ends up fighting real monsters. Yeah, it's really cute. And so when he wrote this, I thought I wasn't real sure about the new Creature Commandos how it would be, but I thought, I liked his Count Crowley a lot. We need to give it a shot. So, um, the new Creature Commandos, they are the introduction that we get. Most of them are the classic characters that we have met before back in the Weird War Tales, but they've been updated for a modern time. There's not technically a war going on like there was. The original Creature Commandos were World War II monsters that were turned into soldiers, and like the vampire here is somebody with some sort of vampiric affliction who hires himself out as a hitman for top mob bosses because he needs to eat, he needs to make money. And you've got a female werewolf, You have
Ooh.
a flesh golem that regenerates called Lucky, and you got several different again variations of the original characters. It is all part of their Project M, which they go, oh, Project Monster. Okay, that makes sense. And the one of the people in charge, one of the doctors, is like, no, it's Project Midst or Middle, because she believes that there is no such thing as the supernatural. That all of the things that she's dealing with their individuals and other research that she's done, um, science can answer it if it can understand it. It's nothing supernatural. It's all scientific, which is an interesting, kind of a Dana Scully look at things. I could
Right up
appreciate.
until the minute you get something you can't explain.
Well, she doesn't accept that. She may not be able to explain it now, but applying the laws and rules of science and physics, she's convinced that she will understand it from a scientific viewpoint if given time to study it. And from what we've seen of her in here, she may be right. I don't know. There's a question as to what the source of some of the powers here are. But if you like Suicide Squad, it definitely has that kind of a feel about it. Um, it's an engaging first issue. I'm not sure I'm going to like all the changes that they've made to the characters, but that's just typical because I was so used to the World War II versions, which they're kind of kitschy, but they had charm. I'm not sure how the story with this is going to go with this, but General Eiling is one of the people that's in charge of the project, which I was like, well, that kind of makes sense because he used to be he ended up being the inheritor of the Shaggy Man powers. Um, so he's been powered before. I don't know if he still is or not. He's not. When we see him in this, he looks human again. But anyway, Creature Commandos. If you like the original, you might give it a try. And again, David Desmashian is just a very cool guy, and I'm kind of buying it just on the basis of his name. I like his Count Crowley. I like that he's a monster kid. His affection for classic monster stuff is very high. So I'm anxious to see what he does with this new incarnation of the Creature Commandos and how if this plays into James Gunn's animated series, if this is like setting things up, if Dasmashian was given guidelines and we'll see them reflected later on when that comes out. I wonder how closely DC is working their projects in concert. And this is kind of my litmus test. If I watch this and then or if I read this and then watch the show, maybe I'll get an idea where they're going with it. But be that as it may, my review this week is for we were talking before about Ghost Machine from Image. Well, this is another Ghost Machine, but it's not connected to that same universe as Redcoat and Geiger and all those. So it's a separate entity. But it's their entry into kind of a horror anthology called Hyde Street.
Oh no.
And to set the tone, this was in the when they put out their solicitations, this was there. And I mean, this is a good intro. There is a street just right around the corner, both familiar and unknown. A street branching off every small town square and cutting through every big city avenue. It's a place where the wicked and cruel are drawn to the crossroads of mortality and madness, with the inevitable destination of not merely death, but something far worse. This is the street of men and monsters. This is a place we call Hyde Street.
It's Dashiell Hammett.
Yes. I really, really like that encompassing, and I get a Serling vibe off
Yeah.
that, definitely, definitely there. So this is written by Jeff Johns, and the art is by Ivan Reyes. The inks are by Danny Miki. Colors by Brad Anderson. Letters by Rob Lee. And it's published by Image Comics / The Ghost Machine imprint. It's rated T+, which is, I think, pretty accurate. It is not as over the top as some of the horror books tend to be, but it's got some adult themes to it. So let's take a quick look inside, because if you look at the cover, I think this is. I saw they have like 4 different covers, but I think this one is probably the best.
Mr. X-Ray.
Mr. X. Yeah. Um. So let's see what else we got here. Okay. So we have an older lady trying to cross the street, and you have a little boy.
Aw, hello,
Yeah.
Timmy.
Yeah. Who's offers to help her. What could possibly go wrong with that idea? It's just. Oh, and here we have. Here's the street she's trying to cross. So it's kind of busy. It's kind of, she definitely
Okay.
going to be hard to find a way across. So he's going to help her.
Mhm.
Well, the little boy ends up having to talk to this fellow, who is Mr. X-Ray, as we saw before.
Okay. You always know the evil guys because they talk in black squares with white letters.
Not always.
Not always. We get a little backstory about Mr. X-Ray. I first thought he would be like maybe the host if it was a really anthology story, but it's kind of it's a faux anthology in some ways, which I appreciate. It's different than a lot of the other things like the EC comics and things like that. Later on, we see some ghastly goings on, but I was talking about the Twilight Zone. I thought this was a very nice kind of a Twilight Zone nod. As a big splash, yeah, splash page. So, see if I can capsulize exactly what the kind of story and their approach is. The preview came out a short time back, and it had a perfect amount of detail for insights about without giving away any major story elements. It was this part with the lady crossing the street, and it just in a few pages it established what you would think. I mean, absolute hook if you like that kind of horror story. Tells you what this is going to be, what kind of stories and the elements that are going to be at work. I have seen so many little previews that did nothing to really interest me, or they seem to be ill placed, or just fair, not really something that grabs you. This one did. And I credit Jeff Johns as the writer again. Johns is a story architect, I think. He builds each tale uniquely, but there are standard ways that he goes about making firm, strong foundations. He doesn't make use of explosive exposition. Nobody gets disemboweled in an opening splash page for impact's sake.
Oh, man.
Well, I mean, that's one way to go about it, but I like the way he does it because he, just one step at a time until you're down at the end of that dark corridor. You didn't realize you were really treading until, now comes the scary part.
Here it comes.
Here it comes. I have seen a lot of that. What would be like a comic book jump scare trying to out there, when it's really good, it works. But a lot of times they're just sort of, okay. I've seen enough of them that usually there's something that'll flag it, or I'm just not generally. I have not lately been terribly impressed with a big jump scare kind of attempt. I much prefer to see this kind of approach in weaving a really interesting story that you can get involved in. Now, some people find that to be boring. They want the jump scares. I get that, but this worked in a Twilight Zone kind of way with strong story. This works, and I think it's one of John's strengths to approach it like that. So instead of big jump scare stuff, the reader gets a ticket. He buys a ticket, enters a well-lit theater, and he settles in for scares to come when the lights dim and the first eerie strains of the opening theme strikes. It's more that kind of a classic approach to a horrific kind of story. And that story here is done in, as I say, a pseudo-anthology way. An elderly lady being helped across the street by a kindly Cub Scout is much more insidious than she first appears, but that's okay, because the kid is too. And he's called Pranky.
Oh
And
no.
he's one of many beings who inhabit a twilight zone, or I like to call it a twilight construction zone region, called Hyde Street. It's where humans are brought and measured for a final eternity fitting.
Oh no.
Yeah, Pranky's specialty is dealing with those who have harmed kids, and
Ah,
he
okay.
takes great pleasure in it. Mr. X Ray is another similar being, and just like Pranky, he was once human, but due to tragic happenings or perhaps misdeeds in their lives or on their parts, they've been trapped in the Hyde Street realm where they must act as individual ferrymen or ferrywomen for new arrivals into their afterlife destinations.
Hmm.
Each such iconic being, Pranky and Mr. X-Ray included, are competing with one another to see who can rainbow bridge the most souls, with the tally being kept by the authority figure above all of Hyde Street called the scorekeeper.
Oh, wow.
On issue number 1, we get a view of what interactions between humans and these afterlife escorts are like. Then we see the origin of the one called Mr. X-Ray. This could be a repeating pattern, I think, as the title continues. A human being dealt with, and then maybe background on one of the beings that's doing the dealing. Conflict enters the mix when we find that some escort beings aren't above poaching the human travelers meant for other destinations due to their crimes or misspent lives. Pranky likes dealing with people that have harmed kids, but he's not above poaching somebody that was meant for Mr. X-Ray if he can get them to admit what they've done. And since he gets credit for that. In fact, when he does something like that, whether it's one of his or if he poaches one, he gets another patch on his on. You've seen him
Oh,
get like the Cub Scout.
he's got a merit badge.
He gets a merit badge, yeah. So, and it's just creepy as all get out. So, so you have this rivalry between these beings going. Now, the art of Ivan Reyes is, I think, it's B horror film iconic. I've always liked his approach, and I love it here. It's very good. He did those homages. There's a part, Mr. X-Ray is actually, and when he was a human, he's the guy that came up with the idea to put ads in comic books. He once was a
Avenue.
Madison Avenue wheeler dealer, like Mad Men,
Mm-hmm.
but he fell from grace because he was embezzling funds. So he ends up having to make it on his own, and he finds one of his artist friends who also got kicked out because he was embezzling funds and had a drug habit. And so they form a company. They're the people that end up selling sea monkeys and X-ray specs and things in comic books back in the day. And he's not the most. Mr. X-Ray was not the most. When you're selling stuff to kids because you say they're stupid, they'll buy anything. You don't have to work very hard at this. You're due for some comeuppance, and he ends up becoming a resident of Hyde Street because, yeah, he's done that, and he preys upon people that do similar things, or he's the one that would meet with somebody that was like a businessman that took the company for a lot of money and to see where his destination in the afterlife is going to be. So Reyes does a lot of homages to things like those comic book ads for sea monkeys and the X-ray specs and things like that. So yeah, he had like redos of those ads, and they're perfect. They're just beautifully spot on. I've seen people in comics that took those ads and just took the artwork and just kind of, basically made a copy of it because it's past being copyrighted or anything like that. No, he made his own, but you can tell that they're original, but they look just dead on like those old ones. Have the same kind of charm about them, like the sea monkeys.
Well, people used to say when I was a girl that there was a special place in hell for folks who sold stuff like that to kids.
I think this title is going to prove that to be true. At least one of the people that sold stuff like that. So, as this initial entry winds down, we see a total of 14 additional escort beings besides Pranky and Mr. X-Ray that inhabit Hyde Street. Chances are we're going to encounter many of them before this title runs its course.
Cool.
And along the way, we are likely to get some answers to many of life's mysteries. And just to give you a heads up of some of these other creatures that are like them, I would call them beings. I don't get the feeling that they're monsters. They were once humans, but perhaps monstrous human beings. But some of the names are Nanny Nursey, the Colonist, the Demon Within, Gen Z, like Jenz, Dr. Ego, the Matinee Monster. Yeah. Sister Hoodoo. No, Sisterhood. Sisterhood, sorry.
I thought you were going to say.
Two words. Sisterhood. Yeah.
I thought you were going to say Sister Golden Hair. I was going to scream.
No. The Butcher of Hyde Street.
Ooh.
You Be Lost Eyes. Raquel Vane, and Miss Goodbody. Yeah, those are just, and you can just kind of imagine on some of the names what their speciality in dealing with people going to their afterlife is. But so we will probably along the way get some answers to many of life's questions, like what sort of afterlife awaits an ad executive / con man combination who sold kids brine shrimp by marketing them as cute and cuddly sea monkeys. And I wrote that down there before you said anything, Elaine, but I'm think we're on the same wavelength. So even with its faux anthology structure, this is the highest quality spooky session horror comic that I have read so far this year. Possible exception of the EC title. That first issue of it was, because it was the Cruel Universe, it was so good and so much like those old EC comics that with modern topics, that I was pretty blown away. So I'm pretty much even. Their ratings amongst other readers has not been as even, but I would rate them to be equitably good. So even with that kind of faux anthology, I think this is going to work as a non-anthology. It's kind of an anthology. We got a story, but then we got backgrounds on these characters. I think that it's sort of like having a horror host comic host, a background for them, and then a story that they tell. So,
okay.
At least the first issue makes me think that. So, for an opener, I think Hyde Street #1 does the main dual requirements equally well. It establishes an intriguing world, not like our own, and it entertains with every detail revelation from the major to the minor.
Cool.
And that's why this first issue of Hyde Street is going to earn my score of 8.5 Rod Serling episode introductions out of 10.
Whoa.
Yep.
That's a pretty high mark considering the fact that I considered the book, based upon the description, a tale of ghosts for Christmas present or Christmas to come type deal.
Yeah, I could see where that could be, except I don't know, because there's some mystery to it, but I get the feeling that these humans that wander in, they aren't going to be going back to do better.
Yeah, I was about to say
they do have some other options besides hell, maybe, but that's what these guys are sort of like, the ones that used to in the afterlife in mythology with the feathers.
I gotta go.
Feathers.
I gotta go. It's a call from my sister. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Not a problem, Lane.
Good night.
But
anyway,
that's kind of, I don't know. It's just like the description and how everything was flowing. It's like, why he taking a page out of Charles Dickens? It's like they're kind of showing them what is going to happen.
Yeah, I don't know. Let's see. And it could turn out to be that way, but that's not the vibe I got from it. We'll see.
But the books that I'm holding off on was these. I did read them. the Birds of Prey 11
Oh, yeah,
through
yeah.
13.
Uh-huh.
I'm just not happy about how they ended the story.
Ah.
It to me is still a lot of gaps. It's a lot of gaps because the main villain that was in the portal,
Mhm.
I didn't think they came to a good resolution to it. It was just like we just have to accept the fact that it's like, okay, she's defeated, but we don't know really understand how she got defeated, and then Constantine and everybody else went their merry way. It's like, yeah, this is a too quick, fast, and nice way to end this story arc without really resolving what actually happened.
Quick and tied up too easily.
Mhm.
Or yeah, I will agree with you on that. For all the steps that got to that point, the resolution, I can't say they actually stuck the landing like I wanted them to. So
But I was like, I have to go back because of the simple fact that the thing that was inside the portal just didn't make much sense of why she wanted to keep Barbara inside of there.
yeah.
And then when Constantine went and got I can't think of her name's help, when she finally stuck her hand inside the portal, she was like, I can't feel them. They must be dead. I was like, no, they're not dead. What type of help are you?
Mm-hmm.
But I don't want to give away the ending. So it's
Right.
just
Right.
the adventure started off good, but it just too quick and too neat. If I
I
can say it again.
overall I enjoyed the ride. The destination left a bit to be desired. It's like when you get
So,
together with a good group of friends and you're heading out and you have a great drive to the restaurant, and then the restaurant's your food's cold.
mhm.
kind of like that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like your food is cold and you can't really enjoy it because it's not hot, so you don't get the real vibe.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing
So
that I found annoying is that as they went from portal to portal to portal, the art style changed. Which,
sure.
at first I found endearing, but then it
Mhm.
got annoying
Yeah. Yeah. I could see
because
that.
it's like,
I
where are
liked
you
it, but
going with this?
I liked it, but I was okay with that part. That didn't. But I do echo the same thing about the landing being kind of a. Yeah, they walked away from it, but it wasn't a pretty landing. Their landing gear didn't really deploy all the way. So, oh, also,
Yeah.
if you don't mind, go ahead and put up that. I was telling Joe I got my e-copy of a Kickstarter book that I had backed.
Yes. That one.
Here we go. I got like my copy today. This is yeah, I think that they were supposed to have it. They expected to have it out about 6 months ago. So this has been delayed a bit. I mean, I've heard of worse delays, so things happen. I
It's
get
not
it.
Liefeld.
It's not Liefeld, no.
Yeah.
So I get it. It's fine. But this is the property. This is the Power Comics Super Joe, which is based on a very obscure, about maybe 2-year long run of GI Joe toys that were sort of like their Mego era. You had the 12-inch dolls for many, many years. They kind of went to this for a year with a sci-fi and superhero vibe about them. They were a little bit taller than Migos, but they were reduced in size. And then with the Kenner Star Wars success, Hasbro started to make the GI Joes, the small ones, like Joe and Eric are big fans of, and the cartoon and everything. But the same scale of those Joes that became big time business again. So in between, you got these guys, and I was impressed that this independent company, a small company, I'm friends with most of the creators on Facebook, um, managed to get the rights to do this. So that's kudos to them. Um, and the first issue is, if you like kaiju kind of stuff and some of the um, more sci-fi bits of the GI Joe cartoon world, I think you'll probably like this. Um, the writing is well edited. It is it's a little stilted at times. Um, they use you know they use some phrases that you kind of roll your eyes, or you kind of go, ah. I've heard that a lot. I've heard that turn of phrase. There's a lot of times turns of phrase that you turn their ear a little bit can be fun, but these are just turns of phrase that kind of you hear every day, and it seemed kind of for the kind of story
Acme,
that they're telling, huh?
it got Acme generic, just
A little generic in places. Yeah.
filling in the spot just to say like, hey, I'm trying to emote here.
Yeah, yeah. Now, I love that one of the monsters that's a kaiju has the screonk of Godzilla in most of the for sound effects. It's cute, a nice homage there. I like the art. Um, I Part of the way that they have it laid out though bothered me because you get several. Okay, they got good action sequences. Broken up into panels is really good. For some reason, when they first start out, they have a lot of like single pages. One panel a page for exposition stuff. Well, to me, I think the exposition pages need more breakup than even the action pages. It's
Wow.
kind of reverse what you normally see, but
Mhm.
exposition pages that are just one big picture with dialogue, I don't know that there's a lot that's more boring than that. But if you can give different panels and different points of view and the angles like cameras, that usually makes even if it's exposition, it's more interesting. And they kind of
It
did
brings
a roundabout.
dramatization. It brings
Yeah,
dramatization into it.
yeah. It makes what would be talking heads exciting, more
Mhm.
exciting, even if they are just talking heads. So that kind of threw me at the beginning, but as it went on, they kind of got away from that. I'm not really sure. Again, I like the art style, but that threw me a little bit. My only other suggestion is that when you have the blurb to put it out there for sale, and you include it in the I believe it was included with the email again of, here, just a reminder, here's what this story is about. Okay.
Mhm.
And then you open the first page of the book, and you have it in like the, what used to, like with the Avengers, it would be the block of text at the very top that says, and then one day a disaster came that was greater than one hero, that little
Mhm.
standard intro thing. It's that again in the text. So then you get to the first big panel that I was talking about, and the guy does an introduction that is, guess what? It's paraphrased the same stuff again that we've seen 3 times now.
Yes,
you
and you're
know,
up there like, start the story already.
right? It's just it was that was a rough. Like I said, it started off a little bit rough. It got much smoother as it went along, but I would limit the amount of putting that phraseology in there. I would take for granted that if they read it, at least leave it off the email, and if they read it at the top, then just get on with the story rather than, you know, you've already got it at the top. If they didn't read it, it's their fault.
Exactly.
You may proceed now, sir. Um, but overall, I mean, I got to give him some credit for taking a very little known property and trying to build on it and
Mhm.
make it fun. Um, it did have a good first story arc with that last panel that you go, what? How does that work? In a good way, the kind of thing like, well, I'm curious now to see where did this guy come from. Um, I think it's pretty standard as far as the kind of action that it is. Um, this company, a lot of times they'll hire older folks that have worked in the comics industry. Actually, I've seen some of them like redo covers that they did
Mhm.
originally for another with different characters. So there's a real nostalgic vibe in the company's output, a lot of it. And I get that here. I think that people that remember these Super Joes fondly, and there are people out there that collect these guys. There is a dedicated fan base of these Joes that a lot of big time GI Joe fans, from the 12-inch figure lines to the small figure lines of the 80s, don't know anything about. So this is kind of a love letter to them. And in that way, it works really well. So I would give it a score of about I give it about 6 or 6.5 out of 10.
Okay, so it's about middle of the road.
It is. It's a good first effort. I may get the second one to see how we go from here. So
I'm just curious because it almost making it sound like it's dated, if I could say it in that aspect here.
I think a lot of modern readers would feel that way. Yeah, I think they would.
Because even with the GI Joe that I grew up with, when it finally got where we're getting with IDW now, or I should say Skybound.
Mm-hmm.
When we're getting with Skybound now, it's new and fresh. We're not getting anything that's rehashed. It's newer stuff that a younger generation can get into. To be quite honest, I look at this cover, and the first thing that's coming to my mind is Shogun Warriors. It's like it's dated. It's like, okay, how are we going to get Super Joe into a modern audience to make? And there's a lot of sci-fi stuff you could do for the modern audience now.
You could.
You have the technology to explain a lot of more of the stuff that's going on, but it just doesn't come off that way to me.
I would look at it like this. You know how toys had in the 80s and the 90s, they would have comic book line, usually pretty short lived, but they would do something. Some of them were really exceptionally good, but a lot of them weren't. A lot of them were. They would take the toys and they would make stories that kind of was based on them. What they knew of their powers and what little background they had on that, they would turn them into stories that were appropriate for the characters, but not Microbot or Micronauts, not Micronauts. Like, that was a really good series that
Starriors.
Yeah,
Starriors would be a good example.
Yeah, those were really
basic powers, but it didn't survive in comic book form.
They exceeded their potential from just being a toy into really good comic book series. This one, it feels like the intention was to give this toy line adventures, the more standard adventures that they just never got a chance to do in that very 80s and 90s flavor. So I would look at it like it, for a lot of people, again, those fans of this toy, that would be a very positive light to do it rather than try to change it all up and make it, too modern. So,
well, I'm not even saying change it up and make it more modern. It's like it's like technology has moved on to where you can make this stuff viable.
You could.
The cover to me feels dated.
Oh yeah, it is.
It does feel dated. The outfits seem dated. I'm not saying, I'm not saying change the whole thing to make it modern. Just saying, hey, it's like, let me take the mouse here. That vehicle right there, that has some viability because now you have the technology, the real good technology to explain something like that. Right. However, this gun right here,
yeah,
that's dated.
Yeah. And I think I agree, it is dated, but I'm just saying I think that was their intention. That this is very much what they were shooting for. So,
and then fighting kaijus is another thing that's like, okay, you just made them Shogun Warriors again.
Yeah, I could see that. I could definitely see some parallels with that. But again, friends with several of the creators on Facebook and all, and I do appreciate it. And again, I may come back for issue number 2 and see how this one's. I'm not sure how this one's sold for them, so we'll see how soon or what they want to do with the follow up. But
you know what I just thought about here?
What's that?
And it just dawned on me. It's like Super Joe was in between the two major GI Joe lines from the 1960s and 1980s.
Right.
Then what I thought about is towards the tail end of the 80s series of how you had like Alien Force and all these other GI Joes that did not work well because they were trying to get away from the whole military aspect of it. And I was like, why did they pick kaijus when you could use like aliens and all the other stuff and kept it with super science? Because even the 80s line eventually went back this route about super science and all the other stuff that was going towards. So it's just like the lore was there. I just not certain it's like if they just wanted to keep it in that time frame of that middle period, or are they going to look at the whole thing? Because to me,
Mhm.
Super Joe falls into that whole mythology of GI Joe.
Mhm.
The only difference is like this force fought something different.
Mhm.
Well, the 60s GI Joe was pure military. 80s GI Joe was anti-terrorism. Super Joe was, the supernatural and super science.
Mhm.
And now since you have Alien Force towards the tail end of the 80s series, it's like it falls right back into that whole category. That's like you don't have to stay stuck in that one period.
Gotta say though,
Yeah.
for the 12-inch Joe line that you were talking about, it started off being military history,
Mm-hmm.
soldiers of the world. They had German soldiers. They kind of looking like they did in World War II. You had all the countries that were involved in that conflict represented. Um, in with very accurate weaponry and stuff like that too. And then it became because the Vietnam War became very unpopular. It became about halfway through its line. It became the World Adventurers Group,
Mm-hmm.
astronauts, the adventure team. Capture the pygmy gorilla to save it from poachers. Um, so even in that, the military part of it back then, it
Mm-hmm.
it changed just because. I mean, I remember it. It was one of those. Even to a kid, it was very fast. Of hey, look, the ads were like on a battlefield, and then all of a sudden the ads were in the Amazon jungle looking for a escaped python, and all of a sudden your Joes had hair and beards that they didn't have before.
Mm-hmm.
The military cuts are gone and everything, and so then in the '80s we went back to the more what, military, but then you know I'm not sure that world events impacted the change, or if they were just looking for different story venues to work into the toy line, but a different focus. But anyway,
But it's interesting to say nonetheless here.
mhm.
Well, let's call it a night here because
Let's
we're
do
two
that.
hours, 16
Yep,
minutes in.
yep, yep. Oh.
All right, here you
Well,
go,
thanks for
Clark.
hosting us, Joe. You always do
Not a
such a good
problem.
job, and thank you for showing the picture of my GI Joe.
I mean, we have to think about it this way. It's like between you, Eric, and myself, we cover all the different generations of Joes that could be out there in the world.
What a scary thought, but yeah, you're right. Oh well, and on that same note, I am Clyde Hall, an elder statesman of geekery. Because when Joe's talking about the different lines, and he looks at me, he's thinking about those old lines of Joe's. And he's right. You can follow me on Facebook at Clyde Hall or Radiating Positive Vibes with author Clyde Hall, where we make at least one daily posting to improve your day. Um, for example, right now, because Halloween's coming up, we do a thing normally. It's called Halloween, You're Doing It Right. And we look at different elements of Halloween, like usually in costuming, when people have gone way over the top to look good. A lot of them are just do it yourself costuming, where they have they've done a character from a TV show, a movie, a comic book, group cosplays, things like that. So it's one of my favorite times of the year to explore that kind of stuff. Other days we have Museum Monday, where we look at some very strange and different. I just found a root beer museum. I'm going to have to explore online and see if it could be one of our topics. But there are things that make you smile, or things that will make a positive change into your day. I'm on Twitter at CJ Hall 1984, or you can check out my Amazon authors page right down here. I'm currently part of the online comic book review crew at comicsbeat.com, aka The Beat. They're at www.comicsbeat.com. It is a comics journalist publication, online publication. It is we do interviews, we do reviews, we cover news about comics, and a lot of times streaming and movies also. Um, and comics across the board, all kinds of companies, um, and the big companies as well as the small. If you go to comicsbeat.com, you'll know what's going on in the world. Oh, also business news. You'll know what's going on in the world of comics. Part of the Comic Book Spectrum podcast team every Thursday night here at 7 p.m. Central. And in my spare time, I'm an independent award-winning author and a contributing writer at Stormgate Press. You can find me at their and in their anthologies. And just to tell you the kind of, new pulp is fun. It's writing in the pulp style, but with with new characters and sometimes a more modern perspective for readers. But the variety of new pulp that Stormgate Press does is amazing. We have aviator action. If you like things like Black Hawk and the Blackhawks, things like Steve Canyon, and that, especially with a pre-World War II up to World War II setting, Captain Hawkland is a great, great hero. He is, and it's he is a sandbox that we at Stormgate Press get to play in because we didn't make up this character, but in anthologies like The Lost Adventures of Captain Hawkland, and this happens to be Volume 2. There's also a Volume 1. People like Brian K. Morris and Bobby Nash and Charles F. Milhouse, the originator of Captain Hawkland, Robert J. Mendenhall, and myself, we get to have fun. We get to play with these characters in aviation adventure. And I love history, so I always get a charge out of getting to do one of these stories. We also have dived into Western pulps. And Spurs and Six Shooters, Tales of the Old West, again, anthology with many of the same names from that other project, along with a few additionals like John C. Bruning and Ray McKay, Adam Wayne, and Jarrett Mazza, and Cindy, our friend of the show, Cindy Cap. And this, if you like Westerns, this is a new pulp Western. If you like space adventure, space opera kind of stuff in a classic style, Tim Bruckner's Major Marjorie. This is another anthology. I'm in it. Of course, you got Tim Bruckner's story. You got Brian K. Morris is in this one too. Jim Beard, Alessia S. Kent. And it is edited by Charles F. Milhouse. So Charles F. Milhouse is the power behind the editing and everything of Stormgate Press. So just go to www.stormgatepress.com and you can see all the things that we have available and things that will be coming out soon. Also, if you notice those covers and you like them, Brian K. Morris's The Terrors has the same artist in charge of this cover. And when we talk about Stormgate Press, Jeffrey Hayes of Plasma Fire Graphics is one of the reasons that people check out our books. I consider him to be part of the bullpen there because his work is so good, and it's meant so many times that people coming to the table asking me about what I have, the wares I have for sale, because the cover got their attention. That's the kind of talent Jeffrey Hayes has, and not only that, but he's affordable and he is extremely easy to work with. He did this for me. There's a reason it's on, it's based on one of my stories of Captain Hawkland, and there's a reason it's on my wall because I was just so proud of the end result, courtesy of Jeffrey Hayes and Plasma Fire Graphics. You can put Jeffrey Hayes and Plasma Fire to work on your next project if you need graphics that will bring customers to your table and get their attention. Joe can tell you about how you can put Plasma Fire Graphics to work for you.
That's right, because if you like what Clyde just told you, you're going to love this video right here.
You've worked hard and written a great book. Now it's time to give it a great cover. If you're an indie author or small press publisher, Plasma Fire Graphics is your source for affordable cover illustration and graphic design. Plasma Fire Graphics, when the look of your book matters to you.
You've seen the graphics. You've seen the books that are that he affected here. You've seen the awards. Why not have Jeffrey Hayes do your next cover? Just make sure you contact him at plasmafiregraphics.com or his Facebook group for Plasma Fire Graphics. As far as myself, I will be back here Saturday with another episode of From the Desk of a Small Press Publisher. And yes, like I promised you guys before, this month is probably going to be a hectic month with new comic books for the week here. And trust me, we got a big box of comics that we got to go through here. So be prepared for that. And we got some more exciting discussion to talk about as well as show you new pages that I've been working on for Primetime Saturday Night. Like I said, I still got to get issue number 5 completed. So as soon as I, get closer and closer to the end, we're going to get the book letter over to Elaine and have that ready, hopefully by the end of the year, because I definitely want to get to another Amazonia soon. I want to get Amazonia 8 done here. And we're probably going to end up talking about a couple more things here. So until next week, as I always say, live life, grow, and be well. And unlike Brian K. Morris, who is the founder of Comic Book Spectrum, I don't care if you wash your hands or not. Why? Because we're outside of that stage of our lives here, which we know as the Big P. Never, and I do mean never, apologize for being awesome. We'll catch you here next week, right here on Comic Book Spectrum. Have a good rest of your evening here.